Four Beardsmen of the Bookpocalypse.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening, good morning.
Fellow beardsman and special guest Ren Hutchings is with us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Very
Thanks
welcome.
for joining us.
Ren is the author of Under Fortunate Stars, I believe was your debut publication.
That's right,
But
yeah.
you have not one, but two books imminently coming out.
Imminently, both in the same month.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's
The
great.
hard one.
Oh,
I
I
can't
should
remember the order.
have my,
Is An
I
Unbreakable
brought the
World
beard.
comes out first?
Hey,
I'm gonna have a beard, yes.
I have a beard, which is my Comic-Con week.
way ahead of Charlie.
You can grow your own, store-bought is fine.
Look, I had an important meeting yesterday. I had to shave. Sorry.
A little 5 o'clock shadow up there.
We'll discuss this later. Jamie.
Good link.
But which one's out first? Is it Unbreakable World out first?
An
or is it-
Unbreakable World is out on September 9th. And
Oh, cool.
The Legend Liminal on the 30th.
Okay.
Here they are.
Mm.
And in case you want to know
very
the
nice.
first one, this is the one that's already out.
That's the one that's already out.
There we go. I always forget to hold on to this books. Didn't.
Yeah.
There we go.
Perfect, beautiful.
Wonderful.
I like the colors. I like
That's the
color.
hardback, yeah. So
Oh,
there's
yeah.
two different colorways for that one because they changed like the dark mode color scheme for the paperback. That's the
Oh,
OG.
okay.
I thought y'all's copies looked different. You held them up earlier in the green room. or
Yeah.
whatever.
So that's hold on, it's right here. So this is the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah. So it's kind of inverted and it's a darker.
Yeah.
It's dark mode.
I know you're the
UFS.
author and everything, but mine's cooler. Sorry, Ren.
It has the end papers. Yeah.
It does. Yes. As far as hardbacks go,
That is nice.
this is very nice.
Yes, it
That
is.
is cool.
Whoever did the
Yeah.
cover and the end papers, like,
Don
didn't
Forbes.
look around.
Don Forbes is my cover designer. He's amazing.
Props to him. That's very cool.
And for
And
the
is
Legend
that a
Liminal,
book that we
Kim Herbst.
somebody could win this evening?
Oh,
Maybe.
Oh yes.
Or
Speak
is
on
there
that.
a-
We're doing a
new-
giveaway.
we are doing a giveaway.
Mhm.
We are.
Okay.
We're going to give away one copy of each of the books. So, The Legend Liminal, which is my surreal, weird road trip novella. It's kind of got Donnie Darko vibes. It's a contemporary, soft sci-fi. It's kind of like weird, slightly horror, slightly spooky, time shenanigans. And An Unbreakable World is the next Union Quadrant novel, which is set in the same universe as Under Fortunate Stars, but it's a standalone book. So we're going to talk about this today. It's its own story following its own characters. So if you haven't read UFS, you do not need that to jump in. And this is a space opera
Awesome.
with it's kind of like a character-driven space opera. If you love Becky Chambers, Alex White, KB Wagers, it's probably the book for you.
Cool.
Cool.
It is like Becky Chambers, from what I read so far, just a bit sped up. If that makes sense.
It's sped up, yeah, like those like the TikTok mix where something's sped up. Yeah.
I mean, you've gone on quite the journey because your first book was very much self-contained, but that I remember reading it felt like it was one of those episodes of Star Trek where it's like mid-season, some weird like time
100%,
fuckery
yeah.
happens. Whereas your new book is very different, like a lot more fast-paced, a lot more world building going on. So, what is your journey been from your first book to these two new ones?
Between the new ones. So when Under Fortunate Stars came out, it was completely a standalone. So it was on its own. Like I didn't really know if there was ever going to be any more. Like obviously I had a lot of ideas about the world. The book used to be a lot longer than what was published. So I had a lot of ideas about what else was going on in the world, other parts of the galaxy. And other times in the galaxy because it spans quite a long period of time. UFS has 2 different time periods. And actually, An Unbreakable World takes place even earlier than most of the timeline that you see in UFS. So you're going back earlier in the Contact War. If you've read UFS, it's a conflict between humanity and an alien species that's been going on for generations. So we're a little bit earlier on in that conflict. And my journey was, well, I thought about whether to do a direct sequel. You know, there was kind of conversation at a point about whether or not we were going to do a sequel or whether we're going to do what we call like a sidequel. And my thought was like, yes, I have some ideas about the same characters that, you know, what happens to the characters after Under Fortunate Stars and around that. But ultimately, I do think that story stands alone really well. And there was other stories that I wanted to tell kind of inside the Union Quadrant that I think connect nicely to the themes, but also give a new entry point for readers. So it's kind of nice. You know, we talked about Becky Chambers a minute ago, like the way that her books are in conversation with each other, but you don't necessarily need to have read one to understand the others. You don't, they're all kind of their own story, and you can hop in anywhere and kind of get to know a different part of the world. So that's kind of what I was going for with this. I think if you've read UFS, you're going to see those connections. You're going to pick up on some little bits and pieces. There's some Easter eggs and there are some connections between the books. But if you've never read one of my books, absolutely, you can jump right in with An Unbreakable World as your first entry point. It should tell you everything you need to know. And like I said, it is earlier than Under Fortunate Stars. So the events of Under Fortunate Stars have not happened yet at the point in the main storyline. So,
Okay, cool.
I like standalones that have common threads that you'll notice if you read more books. I like the idea of that.
Mhm.
We also get readers can get different experience, like jump to different books and then, you know, the order they read them,
Yeah.
you know, so, you know, you're getting a different experience, which is pretty cool.
Interesting to see, like, now as more readers come in with An Unbreakable World first, how they would see Under Fortunate Stars differently if they already had a little bit of knowledge about the world. It's kind of what came before in that sense of even the past timeline in UFS. But I think that I wouldn't rule out ever, you know, writing more that's more directly connected. But I think for this one, it was absolutely the right thing to just go in totally into another corner of the Union Quadrant. And where Under Fortunate Stars talks about heroes and people who kind of became important to history, whether they wanted to or not, An Unbreakable World is more about characters who are on the periphery. So the war is going on in the background. You have some of that generation-long conflict. You know, there's a lot of the sort of background world building is connected. But you're talking about people this time whose actions history may have never known about, right? There's so many people who are just living whole entire lives that, you know, will never be written down in books or have songs about them. And well, in this one, there is a song, but the song's about the book, not about any of the characters. The song for UFS was about the characters. And I think that actually illustrates the difference between them, because the song in An Unbreakable World is not about anybody that's in it. I mean, it could be, it's significant to the characters, but it's not about them.
Okay, cool. Intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I think the hero theme in UFS definitely shone through. It is. I don't want to plot spoil. I know it was a book that came out a few years ago.
It's so hard. Not to spoiler. Like I'm always like, but
there is one character who is very renowned, let's say, and the way that character's arc concludes, that kind of like serendipitous moment where it all comes back around. I thought that was brilliant, and it kind of just underlines don't meet your heroes.
That's very much the theme. Or do, but be prepared to meet someone very different than what you imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. especially if they're stuck in a time vortex and are very cranky about it.
Mhm.
Except for the beardsmen, because if you meet us, we're very cool. But
Oh, we're amazing. Yeah.
We're everybody's hero too, Charlie.
I don't know.
just
I'm
in
pretty
case.
cranky.
Well, yeah. Well, consider where they're until they've actually, I think, met in person. That's I can challenge you on that. So.
Yeah. I mean, Charlie's seen me several beers in. It wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
But we made it.
Oh man.
The only thing is, I was also several beers in, so my memory of any foibles are pretty murky. So,
Tell us about the legend Liminal. You gave a very brief.
Oh, okay. So The Legend Liminal is my first published book that was not a space opera. It is a contemporary, what do you call it? A soft sci-fi. So it has surreal and speculative elements, but it does take place kind of roughly in the near present. In my head, it takes place in summer 2017, if you really want to nail it down. There's a little thing about moon phases and like what date the full moon was, and it is, if you look it up, it is the same as in 2017. However, it is an alternate 2017 in a lot of ways because there's other things that aren't the same. But it's about a group of friends. So it's a friend and a group of siblings, and then they meet someone else a little later in. So they set off on a road trip. It's the anniversary of the death of their mother, like the siblings. And so they and their friend set off on a road trip to kind of get their lives together. And they have this grand dream. They were going to go off the grid and we're going to sort things out. And then they fall out of reality. So it's like, when we said we were going off the grid, nobody expected it to happen quite so literally. They end up sort of, everyone else in the world seems to have disappeared. They are the only people, they're driving down this endless highway and they are now coming across anyone else. They don't come across the cities that they were expecting to see. And so they really are just on their own with their, the baggage that they brought and the things that they need to deal with and their interpersonal relationships. And then some one of these things, again, you can't say much without spoilers, but they will encounter someone else, another person who had a similar experience. And so they kind of link up and, they are kind of challenged. It has some vibes similar with UFS in the sense that they're stuck in a place. They need to kind of work together to try to get out of that liminal place. But in other ways, it's a very different book because it's single POV. So you're with the same character the whole time. And like I said, it's contemporary. So it takes place in our world. And I think it'll be interesting to see because I think that some of the same readers, it is a Ren Hutchings book, and there's things that people will pull out and be like, oh, it doesn't matter what subgenre you're writing in, you are writing about people trapped in liminal places, like people trying to work through their interpersonal relationships. There's some little weird time stuff going on. But yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see how the readers of those books cross over. And it has very Donnie Darko vibes. So if that is something that is your jam, you'll probably like this one.
You and one of the so I'm the resident professional researcher here, so I go digging for things.
All right.
Stalking, researching, it's a fine line.
Well, she made it easy. On more than one place, she listed out a great many interests or loves.
Oh, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those resonated.
Okay.
Including liminal spaces, just as itself. I love the concept of it. I don't know how long that phrase has been around, probably longer than I've known about it, but just the idea of in my head, as a video gamer, I've clipped through a wall. I'm in a place that you're not supposed to be, and there's
Yeah.
nothing.
Okay, have you
nothing
seen
to
this?
find.
Okay, you're going to know what I'm talking about for sure. There was this thread of people that fell through the kind of wall in Red Dead Redemption. And it was a long thread, and they like got into this like weird ocean, and there was all this stuff underneath there. And they were like swimming for hours, and eventually they got locked out or something. But it was a thread of people that like dropped through the wall.
In
If
Red Dead.
if you haven't seen this, I will have to find it and send
Oh,
it
I'm
to
taking
you.
notes right now.
Amazing.
Yeah, just like look at
So
like
they fell into the back
they
room.
fell
back
into the
room?
back rooms, but there was stuff in there.
Oh,
And they were
nice.
just doing this thread, like, I hope we don't log out. And like one person got locked out and something, and they were just like all doing the same. They were
I've never
swimming
really-
in like this weird ocean that was behind the
Nice.
thing.
Inaccessible.
Anyway, yes.
Yeah.
I just dream of this happening. Like where is this?
I've never thought
How do you
much
get into
about,
the minus dimension? Like
yeah, I
then-
never think about what lives or what might you find moving or living in a place like that. I've found
Well,
myself,
who
a
knows?
mall that has been neglected, forgotten for the most part,
What's
and
behind the
everything
mirror?
is still there, frozen in time, no movement, no sound, or like the
Oh,
back rooms. I've worked in
killing.
malls before, and there's some back hallways that are
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
gargantuan,
Yeah.
but completely barren with just electronic
Incredible.
lights.
Like I'm getting chills right now, and I
I did a second ago. thinking about
like
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. I'm sorry. This is the theme.
That's
You're gonna
interesting.
find
Cool.
this repeating theme.
Right.
Probably a lot of things
Okay.
that I write.
There's some kind of cosmic horror to that, and
Mhm.
maybe not cosmic,
Yeah.
but virtual, maybe a virtual horror sort of thing.
I think you're right,
Yeah,
David, 'cause-
cosmic and virtual can overlap
They can,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
since we're in a simulation.
in a
So,
simulation.
Simulation theory, yeah, that's a big thing.
Right,
And
but
so if
like,
you-
yeah.
Also, if
Dropping
you-
rooms.
Are you generally more about the twisted reality than the messing with time, or do you do a bit of both?
Oh, don't this is a make me choose kind of thing. I get it.
Yes, choose
But
one
what
now.
about if you fell into a liminal reality and when you came back out, time was a bit messed up?
yeah,
I mean, my introduction to SFF was The Flight of the Navigator, which is a film that messed me up deeply because I really did not understand at my young age that this isn't something that could really happen. And every time that I would come, I'd be like, is my younger sister going to be older than me? And like, am I just going to find a different family living in my house? Like, I really thought this is something that was going to affect my daily life at some point. And I think this
Actually, yes.
explains a lot about the fiction that I ended up writing.
If you think back, that's quite a terrifying film, actually.
I've not
It's-
seen it. I'm
It's
taking
of the
notes.
generation of like, this was shown to children. And
Yeah. It's one of those things
Yeah.
that you think back now and go, I remember that film. And
oh,
hang on a
yeah.
second. It's like,
And is everyone familiar with the TV show Dark?
Oh, yeah.
I have been
Yeah.
recommended that about
Oh,
15 times, and I
yeah.
Yeah.
The-
I've
the-
forgotten the name
you know,
of it.
it's like,
that concept of kind of meeting younger you and younger generations of
Oh,
you, and it's very dark and it's very
Mhm.
very twisted, but it's
I
beautifully
forgot the
done.
name of it. I watched an episode or two, then I completely forgot the name of it for a couple years, and I don't know what happened. Fell off, but yeah, it's eerie. It's got some creepiness to it.
if you want to know creepy, you just search up liminal space on your browser, and then
Oh,
there's
bro.
a whole list of real places, like those
Thing-
abandoned places that
Look,
abandoned malls and
Darren, in 2020, we all went home. So I worked in an office. We all went home 6 months or however long we absolutely, they had to. Here in America, work's not going to stop. We all come back. Well, we don't all come back. A percentage of us comes back. And so the bullpen where all the sales folks were, half the lights are working, half aren't. There might be one person in there, and then there's the hallway, and people just wouldn't turn the lights on anymore because nobody was in there. So the hallway would be half lit, half dark, no sounds. And I'm
did
used
the
to
lights come on
dark.
when no one was there?
Yeah, well, yeah, and some of them are the type that come on, and some of them are not. It's kind of an old office with some new fangled bits to it.
Yeah.
But I took so many pictures of that place. I found the most creepy shots are if you hold a camera really high in one of these hallways, just looking down at a kind of jilted angle at a half lit, half unlit, barren, pristine. But
if you ever do those places, like I remember when was it? when I was still living in London. Remember when they had the bombs on the tubes
Yeah.
Yeah.
in London? I don't know,
I
2000.
don't know if you can say bums on the tubes.
Like
Oh, you're not-
bombs.
Okay, okay.
Bombs,
There's
not
lots of
bums.
bombs every day, but these ones were some pretty. So there's a terrorist attack basically.
Okay.
On the tubes in London, and so everything, all the public transport shut down, and I had to.
Oh.
I walked back to the office, and then eventually they said, when it was safe, right, you can go home, because there's no way to get home because there's no public transport. So I had to walk. I don't know, it wasn't far, maybe 4 or 5 kilometers or something, but there was no one around. And it was like something out of 28 Days Later. When you get up, you're walking down the street, and there's no cars, there's no people, and it like the nearest. And I think some of the shots they had during the pandemic, the city centers and things like that.
Yeah.
Or we had to go and pick up my in-laws from the airport because they immigrated during the lockdown phase, and we're at the airport, and then of course there's 2 flights a day, so there's literally 10 people at Sydney Airport. And then
What is
the
it
rest
that's
of
intriguing about that? I wonder. It's like
it was just the absence of normality and the absence of people, and that sort of I don't know, the noise, the sounds, the people, it just that absence, which goes back to that liminal space, and the unsettling, the equilibrium.
Potential for, I don't know what it is that so intriguing.
There's 2 kinds of liminal spaces, like the one where it seems like people should be there and they're not. Why is no one here?
Yeah.
And then there's just something wrong about this place. No one should be here. How am I here? So I think that there's those 2 kind of evoke similar feelings, but they're
I've had that in nature, like early run through the bush or something like that, and there's no one around, and sometimes it's beautiful, but sometimes it also has an eerie quality. Particularly if you start thinking of the I was on a run with someone and who's also a sci-fi fan, and we started talking about the weeping angels from Doctor Who, and that was not a good thing to be doing in a empty forest. They're like, oh.
That classic example one that you mentioned, Ren, I think of is 28 Days Later, the shot when he's just out of hospital and he's going over, was it Waterloo Bridge?
I think it must have coming from St Thomas's or something like that, because it comes straight out into over that main bridge, but Big Ben and all that.
There's such a weirdly powerful shot. This isn't right.
There's a shot. Now that you mention it, this is such a tangent. I'm sorry. Collateral. Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah. Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
There's a shot. I don't remember what town they're in. I feel like it's in California, LA maybe. And it's at night. Well, however, wherever it is, it's dead. And there's a coyote walking on the road. No cars. And it wasn't planned. I saw the commentary. They didn't plan to see a coyote out there, but they just
it just showed up.
Just a shot of an empty road with streetlights and everything, and a lone coyote just kind of creeping across. And it played the song "Shadow on the Sun" by Audioslave.
Yeah,
it was such a cool moment in that film. I don't know how well the film stands up. I thought it was pretty good. Tom Cruise is a good bad guy, murderer, assassin. Cold-hearted, but that one scene was there was something very liminal about it. But just a wolf or a coyote just creeping along like he belonged there. It was so weird. Very cool shot. Sorry for the tangent.
We love a tangent.
Liminal spaces.
Gosh, there's a lot of potential in there.
It's like if you wanted to what could you talk about for half an hour with no preparation?
Oh, yeah. Well, you left, and you have a lot of things, and I have a lot of things to ask you, and. If anybody has any questions, please stop me.
I just feel like Ren perhaps drops into liminal space to write so many books at once. It's the
okay, that's something none of these books have been written at the same time. In UFS, I started writing in 2013, and it was published in 2022. So I think that sometimes with publishing, because traditional publishing takes quite a long time, but also a lot of times a story percolates and goes through a lot of different iterations or rewrites, or even just you maybe just wrote down a snippet of something years ago and didn't think that it would become anything, and then you find the right story for it eventually.
On that, Well, sorry, go ahead. Well,
I'm holding that.
Are you exclusively traditionally published?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. I saw you have a literary agent, Ernie.
Ernie, yep.
Ernie. Chiara? Anyway. Okay. I was going to ask if you had if you were dabbled in indie at all, how does it work with a literary agent? Because I like the idea of somebody who can do translation stuff or just different agent type of things, but obviously they need to be getting paid. And
yeah,
so that's something you would sort that out in your agency agreement when you sign with them. So Ernie does have some clients who have both traditionally published and indie work, so he maybe represents some parts of their career and not others, but it would depend on the agent, and that would be covered in your agreement with your literary agency.
For sure.
So if you already have indie work, maybe you say, well, I'm taking care of the English language, but I would like you to be shopping the translation rights or the audio rights, or maybe you want them to, take over everything, and you want that indie book to potentially be traditionally published. That's happened quite a bit lately, where traditional publishers have come to an indie author and wanted to publish something again or republish, a new edition of something that already was out. So I think that would depend case by case, like how
for sure
the agent works with you, but it's all in your agreement. So at the time when I first signed with an agent, I was also working on some IP work, but it wasn't credited for, it was like at work. And so I had something in there saying, I do have books that I work on, but they're not going to be represented because they're part of my day job. And it's not something that even has my name on it. Right. So you would just get a clause put in, and you would talk to them. And as things came up, or, I think with Ernie, I would just talk to him, like if there was an indie project or something that I'm doing that wasn't going to be traditionally published, I would just talk that over with him and see if there's any part of it that he was going to represent or not. But you just have a conversation, basically.
But he is, and him, but also agents in general are open to repping indie published.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, you would just mention, if you have indie books out already, you'd probably mention them in your query letter. But if you're approaching an agent, presumably you want to interact with some part of the traditional publishing process, because that's what they're going to do for you. So whether that's translation or whether you just want to try to potentially go out with a whole new book, I think it depends as well, because some agencies do their translation rights, they have that in-house, and others have a partner agency for that. So it would just depend on who you're working with. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways that people structure their careers now. There's been a lot of authors that found success with a mix, which was like a hybrid career. Yeah. So yeah, if you're interested, I would put that in your query letter when you're querying agents, to let them know that you have traditionally published work, and it'll be up to the individual.
The word query and query letter still feels like nails entering my actual bones. So I don't know how eager. But it's been a while, so maybe that
indie blood runs deep, David.
We could go around the entire panel and talk query.
You want to talk about query letters?
Yeah. How many? I suppose the classic question is how many queries did you have to make before you found your agent, and obviously found success with Solaris?
I queried probably 25. There's the thing with space opera in particular is there's not a ton of agents who represent it.
Yeah.
Really?
And so I was actually agented before. So Ernie's not my first agent. I had another agent before when I signed the first book deal for UFS. And at the time I had a list of maybe 40 agents, and that actually is not very many. There's a lot more agents than that, but ones that I felt had sales in sci-fi and in space sci-fi in particular, it is actually a fairly niche thing. And I think to find people that actually have the solid relationships with editors and that have that as an interest. And you also want them to have, read widely in that genre so that they could give you the best advice. And if they're not someone that really deals with sci-fi, they're not really going to be the best partner, right? I think for me, because I was working in sci-fi primarily, it kind of narrowed the pool of who.
Which is a good thing, kind of. I mean, as far as how many agents there are.
Yeah. So I think that when I ended up getting agented again, with Ernie, he had read Under Fortunate Stars and had actually, I'd interacted with him before it, and he loved Under Fortunate Stars as a reader, and he'd been following my career even when he wasn't representing me. So the fact that he had this deep love for my work and my genre, so that was already something that was, I could just tell that we were going to work well together, and that we kind of enjoyed the same kind of stories. And I could talk to him about all aspects of whether it's the creative aspect. Yes. Some agents are a little bit more editorial than others. Some are more on the business side. So that's the other thing about fit. People talk about finding someone that's the right fit. It just depends who's right for you. Maybe you don't need a lot of editorial support, or you don't want to talk to them about batting creative ideas back and forth. You just want them to just sell your translation rights. And so that will change who you want to work with or who's going to be right for you.
Cool.
But ultimately, it is a business partnership, and you want to get on with them and just know that they're going to be the right person to push your career forward. So
cool. It seems quite rare that, an agent had already read your book.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Normally it's the other way around. Please read my book.
Please read this.
I think that a lot of authors, I wouldn't know if I would say most, but many are not with the first agent that they started out with. They might change agents a few times. And like we talked about, it could be that your career's going in a direction where, say, you wanted to do some hybrid publishing, or you wanted to go into writing middle grade books and they don't represent that, or you didn't feel like you were creatively aligned. There's so many reasons why, as your career shifts, you might change who you're partnering with. So it's kind of hard to give a one size fits all answer about agents. But yeah, I think if you're someone who's already been published, I think there's a good chance that the future agent would have read your book, because they're probably reading widely in the genre that you work in, and that's who you want.
When I gave my book to an editor, or hired an editor, and he had commented about, he was asking, had I tried to publish it traditionally, had I reached out to an agent or whomever. At the time, I had not, because on my very first book from 2013 or 14 or whenever, I did, and it was exhaustive, and it felt like I was leaving everything in somebody else's hands, and it felt, and I struggled with that anyway. So I told him no, I'd never tried, and he was like, "Well, it's good. You should at least consider it." So I did the process of going through and finding as many agents, like you said, that read books that influenced my books and things that I would consider, comparable. And the same way I do if I have something in my Amazon cart, going through the negative reviews on it, I kept picking more and more of these potential agents, and it's epic fantasy, which doesn't seem like niche, but you start thinking about, well, yeah, but they need something grittier. That's just, whatever. I narrowed it down to one single agent.
Right. And
I wrote this one agent, and I don't know how good my query letter, I'll never to the day I die know how good any of my query letters is. And I heard nothing back, and I said, all right, you did your best. Let's go on and indie publish this thing. Good try. Good try anyway.
Well, okay. It could have worked out. It could have. But I think that sometimes you cannot understate how much timing matters. So if you take, for example, somebody that had a vampire book and was trying to query that book in 2014, 15, when we're kind of coming off the end of the vampire, proliferation. Sure. And everyone's saying, well, vampires are oversaturated. Nobody, it's a good book, but it's not right for right now. But then they kept that book aside, worked on other things, and now there's suddenly this resurgence of interest in vampire stories. Take out that same manuscript, which really, maybe I think they gave it an edit pass, but it was roughly the same story that had been queried before, but the time became right. Yeah. And they had a manuscript ready to go that was already polished, had already been edited, was like query ready. And this is why I think it's so hard for people trying to like write to trends, because it takes time to polish a manuscript to get something out. And sometimes it's really a matter of being in the right place at the right time.
Lightning.
And you might have had something in your, in your archive that you worked on years ago, and now is the right time, and everyone's suddenly really, really interested in your subgenre or in a theme that you have, and you're like, here you go, here's the book. And suddenly there's a lot of interest. So it's not necessarily that your query letter or your book needed to be different, just the times needed to align. Everything needed to align.
You take it that your next book's a vampire book then?
Well, I was going to say, like, I've always called myself a science fiction and fantasy author, but this year, for the first time, I can say I am a published fantasy author, because I have a fantasy short story in one of the Stars and Sabers anthologies, which is called Of Enchantment, Enigma, and the Infinite. It is my first actual, my published fantasy debut. So now that SFF author, yes, you can actually go and read a fantasy story that I have out there in the world.
Putting the extra F in the title. So
the extra F, yep.
This might be a segue from something you were mentioning earlier, maybe. Sorry. Taking notes. You've worked in game development. Was that your day job? What is it? Can you tell me about your game development stuff?
Yeah. So I worked in games for probably like more than a decade, off and on, in different parts of the industry. So I started out as a writer for a massively multiplayer online game that was like a flash game that was for tween girls. So it was like trying to get into it was like a sort of virtual Polly Pocket, basically, and there was a little storyline in there, and it was a sci-fi story, actually. So it was about these girls who were a group of gamers, and a bunch of aliens came to Earth and thought that these gamer girls who they'd seen like battling aliens in a video game were like heroes that could battle aliens. And so they came and told them about this villain that was taking over their planet and like trying to get them to come and help them. Kind of Galaxy Quest, but
cool.
Junior. So I've worked on that story, and that actually was something that I fell into sideways, because I had just been working in the studio doing like advertising pitches. And at some point I had just pitched a little story because I was talking to somebody who was working in the writer's room, and they're like, oh, like do you want to like try to write something for the game? And so I started doing that. And yeah, that was really fun. But then where I ended up actually is in production. So I was more like coordinating offsite art teams and timelines, live ops for games that have updates regularly, in mobile games. That's what I was doing most of the time. So games that were in the App Store. And this brings me to something super sad, because only one of the games I've ever worked on still exists anywhere. And this is something that's happened, is that games have become so ephemeral. And so, when servers go offline, games die. And I'm like, everything I've ever worked on is like, ouch. Yeah, you can find a clip of it on YouTube, but you cannot hold the console or like, go and find it in the store. And even you cannot like say, I still have my old Game Boy and I can put the game in there and like, here's the little physical game. It is gone. It's ephemeral.
You've gone away from the physical media. So,
and that's a tragedy. Like, I am devastated about that. But anyways, yes, once upon a time, I worked on.
When you landed it, were you already a writer? Did you already aspire to write novels?
I think I've been writing like always, pretty much since I could write stories. I think there's little bits and bobs of things that I've written that still resurface, right? Stories that I've had with me for a long, long time. And that's something interesting, is that this is the first interview that I've done for either of these two books. I'm like, I have so many facts. I have so many things that I haven't, like, I've talked about UFS for years at this point, but with these two books, everything that's in there is new. So every question you ask me, I'm like, I have 50 things I've never said. I'm like, which thing do I say? I have something to say about characters being around for a long time, about the Legend Liminal, but we'll probably come back. I feel like I'm going off the question. What something about working in games? Games die. Everything is ephemeral, and I love old media and old computers and old things, and I love the intersection of nostalgia and like longing for a future, like that retro future, right? I don't know, the way that like Star Trek TNG is nostalgic now, but at the time when it was made, it was like looking toward the future. It's like, what did our ideas of the future used to be, and what was what is actually here? The flying cars aren't here yet, you know. Like,
and we haven't got hoverboards. Why haven't we?
And yet we do not anymore have a headphone jack in my phone. I have this little doodad that I have to use instead because I refuse to use wireless headphones.
The name's dongle of all things.
I refuse. I will like connect 5 or 6 different things before I will give up my wired headphones.
But it's amazing. Like all the old physical media, like analog, it just lasts. Like I can fire up my old Super Nintendo. I can play the original Link to the Past.
And they don't break.
I have my original Nintendo and it works. And
this is
and the thing is, in 10 years' time, how are they going to make another Jumanji series if everything's gone?
Oh no! Yeah. Then you're trapped in there forever. The server went down. Guess you're
That's
gone.
what they want. That's
they a reboot of Jumanji. They'll be on an app.
That's actually a new. There you go. That's a short story right there. What happens if you're trapped in a game, but then the servers go offline?
Yeah,
like a net. I had this idea once for a story, was like kind of going into like if it was all a simulation, what happens if there was a net split and like some people went off on one side and then like they couldn't, you know, how do you even know what happened from the inside?
Especially if time passes and then they meet back up and there's been some evolution.
But then that goes back to that whole, like, you know, the Mandela effect where people remember things differently and like say, oh, this used to be different. And it's all.
So what about
stories, so little time to rate them.
Well, we're back in the liminal spaces again.
We're back.
Yeah.
How much time did that take? Like,
we found the theme.
The server goes
we
down.
can't escape them. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
So the server goes down. Everyone's in Groundhog Day except you, rather than the other way around.
Oh wow!
In a loop. You're the one
trying to.
about.
Well, I mean, that's a plot of several Star Trek. It's probably Data who just like didn't get stuck in the loop, and he's trying to tell them. Yeah.
He's a lunatic. He's a crazy person.
He's always trying to tell them, and
okay.
So when you're writing, do you ever regret messing with reality? Do you ever think, oh, why did I not just kind of keep it straight?
No, I think because that's what I set out to do. I think, that's a SFF. That's the SFF author brand, isn't it? Like we kind of can't. It means I'm doing what I set out to do. I sometimes regret drafting out of order, which I seem to do all the time. It's the only way I know how. So I get to this phase where I have to actually figure out what order the pieces go in. And that's just a part of my process. I feel like I've just embraced it now. Before I'm like, oh, I could outline, I could go in order. No, I can't. I actually just can't do it. So
I write out of order as well. I saw that drafting out of order was of
drafting out of order.
Yeah.
You also have 1,500 POVs as well. So
I made too many.
The trouble is you just think of a really cool thing you want to write before all the rest of it, so you have to write that scene.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise
scenes that are begging to get out.
I feel like I find a lot of times I find my way through the story by writing it, though. Like I feel like I always know. I know the themes. I know the character arcs because I write character first, 100%, and I know the end game. Like I know where it's going, but I don't know how. Like it's like if you drew 2 dots on a paper, and then there's like infinite ways you could connect them. So I know where I'm going to, and I know what journeys the characters are on.
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily, especially because I often write in multi-POV and multiple timelines, and it's a lot of figuring out like what do they need to know? What does a reader need to know? Because I know, but they don't know yet. So I have this whole method of revision where it's like tagging things like, yes, we've told, and this is similar to how when you do game dialogue and stuff, have they seen this, then this, right? When you're putting something into like a content management system and building dialogue trees. It's my drafting process is probably kind of like that.
Makes sense.
Except then one gets picked, like that's it. But it has to make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, old school side scrollers. What is your what would you say? I'm not going to say what's your favorite. I hate that question, but what are some that are close to your heart?
Close to my heart. Well, all of the original Mario games. Like those were the first games that I had, the first video games that I had. I got the NES probably after the next one was out because I wasn't allowed to have it for a long time. So I had it like one behind. So I've been retro all along. When the Super Nintendo came out, then the other one I was allowed to get the one that was the previous one.
The most recent.
But I have to say, there is like a Wario side scroller that was like a Game Boy Advance game. And that's probably actually the game that I have like the most just hours in, and it really brings me back to a time in my life because I was at university and I would just like sit and play on that game like in between when I had big gaps between lectures and stuff. And I feel like a lot of things are a moment in time, right? It could be something that you saw contemporaneously when it came out, or it could just be when you were listening to it or playing it. Or I think so much of what we love is really as much about the moment in time as of how much the thing was really the best thing or, the most fun. But I feel it brings me back so strongly to a period in time that if I played it now, I would be there. Like I feel like I can smell what like the campus courtyard thing smelled like where I would sit.
What's funny
if I looked at that.
I definitely heard the music, the Wario side scroller. I know what you're talking about, and I know the music.
Which one is it? I'm thinking like, what is the whole title of it?
Didn't have a chopper he used to ride around on in that game? Did I make that up?
He did have a chopper. I don't know if it was in that. What is the title? It was a spin-off. It was
Wario
6
Incorporated
coins
or something like that.
6 coins was like Super Mario Land 2.
I was thinking of the coins, but it's not. I don't think it is. It's the one.
Yeah, he had a spin-off thing.
Yeah.
I
always play Mario in Mario Party.
Nice.
Mario's like my guy. He's my.
It is wild how well the Mario 1, 2, and 3, however much of an accident 2 was or was not. It's wild how well they stand up, especially compared to a lot of NES titles.
I play them when I go back, like when I go back to my childhood home. Like my Nintendo is still there. And it still works. And I have a cartridge that I could put in there. And at my mom's house in storage, I have a CRT TV that one day I'm going to put some retro consoles on and like have in a nook in a attic somewhere, wherever. I don't know the shape of it, but I will return. Somehow I will return. Yeah.
Just explain to your kids what blowing on a cartridge means.
This is a replica cup from TNG, the cup that Picard gets his tea Earl Grey hot in.
It's cool. This is its inaugural use, is that right?
Yes, I got it for my birthday. And
when's your birthday?
It was a couple weeks ago.
Happy late birthday.
Thanks.
Don't give our professional researcher your actual date of birth, please.
No, sorry. Look, I don't.
Star sign and rising
What's
sun.
the name of your first pet?
Yeah. And the last
that would not get you anywhere because I actually have made up a name of a pet that I've always used as my first pet. It's actually my imaginary pet. So, yeah.
Get worried if he guesses that.
If you guess that, I would be impressed.
Is his name Orlando?
No, but
okay,
that would be
my
creepy.
own,
Can you imagine if it was correct?
Yeah.
I would say that would be on the level of giving yourself the password to prove you're you from another time.
Yeah.
Cool. I
Taking
got
kind of professional research in people's minds.
to take it to the next level. I have a question for you.
Yes.
On the subject of listening to one song on repeat forever.
Forever.
What's or just for a long time, let's say.
Mhm.
What's a recent song you listen to on repeat?
Oh, current one is Giants by Lights.
Okay.
You may have seen, if you follow me, that I've posted that on my stories about my current work in progress, because that's something I'm absolutely stuck on for two of the characters. The way that I draft is like, I'll have a song that's attached to a scene. And so if I have to come back to the scene later, I just put the song on and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of where I was.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Famously, when I was drafting the end of Under Fortunate Stars, I listened to Whatever It Takes by Imagine Dragons for multiple hours a day for about 2 weeks. Like the entire time that I was writing the end game. And again, a moment in time, like if I hear that song, I'm literally back in the cafe where I was writing that, and I don't know. But yeah, it's Giants by Lights. Also a cover of Look What You Made Me Do by Scarlett, which is a song for one of the characters in An Unbreakable World. And
that's a cover of Taylor Swift, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Can I just say that it seems like all the people who cover her music make a better song than
I don't know that it's better necessarily, but it has more of the vibe.
Different.
Like it's a little bit more threatening.
Gotcha.
You'll get us cancelled.
And
Say that.
It's,
The Swifties will come for us.
it is a little bit darker version, like because it's a revenge song, right? So I think that it just has a little bit of that kind of like more sinister energy that character has.
Cool.
If you've read An Unbreakable World, you probably know who I mean, but I don't know. I still haven't figured out which things I'm gonna say and which things are spoilery. Yeah. First time out, I'm like, I don't even remember how do I introduce this book? I've never talked about it before. Every single thing that is being said on here is the first time that it's being, unless I posted it in one of my posts that I've done about it. But I mean, in terms of questions asked, you were asking the very first questions about both of these books.
Right. I feel like, speaking of questions and first times and music, I believe there's a certain song.
You can at least preview it, sure.
For your new book.
Okay. So when Under Fortunate Stars came out, I collaborated with Matthias from the Burning Hell, which is an absolutely incredible folk band from Canada. You should check them out. They're folk rock. They're indie. They're quirky. They make music in a ton of different little niche subgenres, and I love them. They're probably my favorite band of all time. I asked them to collaborate with me to make a song, to make the real folk song that appears in the book Under Fortunate Stars. And we did. We made a real song. It's called The Flight of the Jonah. It is on all the streaming platforms if you want to look it up, and there's a link on my website. But we collaborated on a new song, which is coming out next week, and it is the song that's significant in An Unbreakable World. And I don't want to say too much, but it's an in world. It is a classic song from about a generation ago, from the point of view of the main characters. It's a song that is a breakup song, kind of told with a lot of mythological references. It's a fight song that became popular during a time when humanity was kind of at their low, and so it's a kind of song that you'd want to hear played at closing time in a bar, and that's just kind of going to be around. Like there'd just be a ton of covers of it, and it would still be known for the next generation as well. And I have a preview of the song just called You'll Know It When It's Over. And hopefully, I'm just actually going to play it into my microphone, so you can tell me if I need to bring it closer or turn it up.
We'll take what we can get.
We will listen to a little clip. I think we got about 30 seconds of it here.
master of the sky. But you broke my wings to make sure that I never fly. Obliviate the darkest darkness of all. From the depths of your evil, I heard your black-hearted call. You know it when it's over. You know it when your heart lies broken at your feet. You know it
There you go.
Nice.
That was cool.
You'll know when it's over by the Burning Hell. It'll be out next week. I will shout about it everywhere, but please check it out, and please check out their other music, because I will shout forever about how much I love them. And I still, this is one of those things where you're like, what did you expect was going to happen when you published a book? And if it was like, I'm going to collaborate with one of my favorite songwriters ever, and
It's kind
make
of
a song that was not on my bingo card, and now it has happened twice. So very excited to share that next week.
I mean, the question is, if you dropped into a liminal space where a younger Ren Hutchings was sat over a computer and just had started
I like this
writing.
question. I'm giving you is this the best comment, or you're not allowed to?
I mean, how would you like describe your journey thus far? Like you've obviously done UFS, but now you have the 2 new books coming out. Like, what is it?
Wow, how would I
You
describe
went
it?
from like ground zero to now you're collaborating with all your favorite indie bands, and you're on your 3rd book. What's it like? What would you say to pass?
What is Ren asking though? I feel like Ren would probably have a lot of questions unrelated to whether I had published the books. I'd be like, I'm not answering any of that. I can only tell you about my books, and this is what they're about. One of them is about time travel. One of them is about falling out of time and reality. One of them is about sort of searching for your purpose and your identity. What a shock. Wow. I feel like younger Ren would be like, oh, yeah, that tracks. Like, I think there's nothing there. Sometimes I look back, I found like an old journal where I was writing something, and I was just read, like, it was literally just a description of my day or the way I described something. And I was like, I could have written that yesterday. Like, that is what I am, the same person. I feel like hopefully I've like grown and learned things, but at the heart of it, I think I'm still searching for the same answers. I think younger Ren would probably be very disappointed that I don't like know more about the purpose of things, that I cannot answer the questions you're asking. But we published a few books and they're really good, so there's that. Yeah, I think going back, like if you go back to the person that was like scared about the flight of the navigator, and we like, you can draw a straight line from that to things that I'm writing this minute. So
Steven Spielberg's got a lot to answer for then.
I was going to say, it's impressive you've completed the 3 books. Like most of us, DB aside, are still stuck on our 2nd.
Stuck feels adequate of a word.
I think that it's important to remember like how long these books took. Like a lot of times you only see a book when it's kind of this finished product, but the ideas that went into these books, this is probably the place where I should segue into the thing I was going to say about the Legend Liminal. So when I started writing the Legend Liminal, it wasn't a novella. It wasn't a short story. It wasn't anything. It was a series of prompts for a little event called Flashfic February. And so the idea was that each day in February, you'd get like a word or an image. Sometimes it was like a photo of something, or like once it was like a swatch of a color. And you would write 300 words, just like a writing exercise. And at the time, I was kind of just trying to like experiment with different writing styles, I guess. Like I'd written a lot in this sort of, what I was my UFS, more space opera voice, I guess. And I wanted to try something like a little bit more informal or kind of, just stretch out my writing and see what I could do. And so I was purely writing as a writing exercise. However, I have these characters, which were like, I've had them probably since I was 12 years old. 4 characters who I've used in writing exercises, like in class, when it was like write a story in creative writing courses. And they're always 4 characters. Sometimes they were siblings, sometimes they were friends, colleagues, like they're 4 archetypes. They would switch around, kind of like how you'd write an AU, right, with different settings. But I've always had them. And so, of course, I wrote it with these 4 characters and all these little 300-word snippets. And suddenly I was like, oh, these are kind of connecting. Oh, there's kind of like a story in here. Oh, there's something here. Like, and so this series of prompts is what started the nugget of the idea. But because it was a writing exercise, I had written it with these 4 characters that I used in all of my writing exercises from age 12. And in fact, now they have fully, solidly fleshed out backstories and stuff. They sort of solidified into this version of them. And they are the main 4 in the legend Liminal. And the fact that the bones of these characters are years old, and I could trace back to other stories and be like, okay, that's the character that would have been like the Stacy in that story. This is the character that would have been Faye. Even though they're completely different, they are those characters. Their makeup is that. So this story, how long ago did I write this? Like either a couple of years or 20 years ago? Like, which is it? It's been always. And it's almost like these characters never found their own story. They were always just in these little throwaway, I'm writing something. Here they are for half a paragraph trying to write atmospherically, and now they're gone. But they finally found their story after all of that time. And I think there's something in that it's almost like they've just been there all along waiting for somewhere to fully be realized.
Entities without a place to be.
Right. In a liminal space. They were in a liminal space.
That's what I feel like.
Oh, they're still in a liminal space, but in a book. So they are now riding around in a van trying to escape from something, which looks like their regular world, except there's nobody else in it.
Very cool.
Very cool.
It's a baby, like it's pretty small. If you like, it's I think 27,000 words, which my space operas are chunky books. This one is like a bite-size book. So I love novellas. I think it's something I never really thought that I'd be capable of because I write so big usually. And I managed to write short stories this year too, which is like, it's a new skill. It is a different skill.
Different for sure.
Like, writing something that short, I find so challenging. And it took some time to work out. So
sorry, after you did.
here's the anthology that has my fantasy story in it. It's called Enchantment, Enigma, and the Infinite. And my first ever short story that was published is in Of Shadows, Stars and Sabers, which is a sci-fi story. So one of each.
I feel like writing for an anthology is in a way even harder than doing a novella because it's even shorter.
It is so hard. Writing a short story is like
Torture.
it's some kind. I don't know. I find it very hard. It's just like you just have this much time and that's all you've got. I think that the first one, the sci-fi one, I think is definitely self-contained. It was, I don't even know how that happened, but it was like a capsule moment, right? Where you think, okay, it was almost like, an episode of something, right? But a capsule. The other one, I'm like, the fantasy story, I think could easily have more, right? It could have been a novella, it could have been a novel. The world could have been built out, but it just tells you one little tale inside of it. So
Yeah. I'll put this out to the entire panel. I mean, the short story element, like DB, I've read your one you did for the Fanfi Addict anthology.
Oh, yeah.
Has that ever been like officially announced?
I don't actually know.
Oh.
I don't think it has. No.
there's a Fanfi Addict anthology. I'm sitting here like, there is? Or
Yeah.
it
No.
wasn't announced. Okay, but if it wasn't announced, then it's
Like,
okay that I don't know.
it just has
Are you
been.
supposed to say that? Did we just spoil it?
Well, yes, there is a
If there
Fanfi
was
Addict.
such a thing, yeah.
If there was if such an anthology, then DB and myself
there
would
was,
write a
if.
story for it, which is a short
Okay.
story.
Hypothetically, if
And
such a
we-
thing
Yes,
existed,
there's liminal space somewhere with this
where would we
anthology.
find it if it existed?
When would we find it?
When would we find it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how do we get to that when?
And can you get out again?
If you
And
dominate,
can
You
we
can get
return?
back out again. Right, you can get it. It's like, but you can't get back.
Yeah.
Like jumping into that pit to
Yeah,
get something. And
but
yeah.
There's a story. There's an anthology you can get in, but you can never get out.
because the servers were switched off because it turned out the
Yeah.
anthology was in a game.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I don't feel
How-
the server's
how-
been switched on for the Fanfi Addict anthology just
No,
yet.
not quite
It
yet.
has
Yeah.
been. I've just witnessed it. Like it's happening
Yeah.
right now.
Uh-oh.
When I
will
come back,
happen.
I'll be like, I've seen it. I've read the anthology. It was incredible.
But that's the
It
thing
was
with the
so
short
nice.
story.
Mandela
Like
effect going
you
on.
can, I feel like most writers can pump out the epic book. Like we've all got this kind of book in all of us. I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Like
just
you can
getting
do
it
long,
out, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
but to actually condense something down, like to what 10,000 words less for a short story.
Oh, the short
It's-
stories had to be under 5,000 words. Under 5,000.
That would be tough.
Yeah, but
So
I
few
only
words.
do Sky
It's so
Pirates and
few.
things like that. But I did something completely different for the Fanfi Addict anthology one. It was so out of the comfort zone. But it was good fun as a project, but I'm loath to do it again soon.
I'm very
Yeah.
upset. I haven't read any of those yet, but I do have a certain one of another anthology that you're involved with, Tom, which I'm going to jump into very soon. So,
That one is Sky Pirates, though.
yes.
That was more
Cool.
familiar.
Awesome.
I presumed it was going to be Sky Pirates. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
But they're
Good
called Sky Pirates, so it's slightly different. It's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
polar sky piratey. but also
Frozen
pretty
Sky Pirates.
But the thing is, with my writing, I have multiple POVs as well. And when I tried to do that in a short story, it was
Oh.
awful.
Yeah.
Right. Multi POV in a short story. That's
I
challenging.
thought, yeah,
I think you can pull it off. You could. But
I-
I think you'd have to be very, like, the characterization would have to be
Pristine.
concentrate, like taking a
Yeah.
shot of characterization, right? Like,
Yeah. And that's the problem with a short story because the world building, all of a sudden the timer stops and you've run out of time. The actual story, the timer stops. Everything's kind of do everything fast and do it well.
DB, how long is
a little bit like short stories in a universe that exists, right? To say, I think I could write a short story
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
William Potter universe, no problem. But
Yeah.
then I feel like most people that would read that story probably already have a little bit more context. So you don't need to be
Yeah.
giving them like quite
Right.
that much. Like you can just drop in, be like, okay, it's happening.
And you don't want to fall into the trap of I'm just taking like my Google Doc full of lore dump and just publish that
Yeah.
because no one wants to
Yeah.
read that.
I mean, you could, but you could then, I would call that a lore book then, or have like illustrations and other things. I think snippets of lore for the right reader. I mean, I care. I would buy that if I
Yeah.
really, but you would just have to package it as what it is, right? And then the right reader will be like, heck yeah, give me another 10,000 words of a lore dump, please. And if someone's like, that's not for me, then they're not expecting a short story.
But it's like you'll read Lord of the Rings, but no one will say it's my favorite book of the series. But you still read it.
But I think this is like,
Or would they?
I think there are people that, want more. And some people will read the core text and be like, that's cool. That was the story for me. And other people will hunt for everything, like to be like, oh, there's, something this author put out another story that was just in this obscure magazine, and they will like have to go on eBay and find it and be like, okay, this was like an early story that my favorite author wrote about something in 1998. And you can probably still find, you know, some things that are pretty interesting.
You made you made me think of a thing that inspired me since I was a kid. And I don't know, you were talking regarding, I guess, the tip of the iceberg, not knowing more versus wanting to know everything. Magic the Gathering, some of their cards, this is not going to focus, we'll have a little quote on the bottom.
Like,
when I was a kid,
I need to know.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was like, they were so catchy and they were punchy. And I'm like, where's the rest of this? Where I want to hear the rest of whatever story this is.
There's novels and there's things, you know.
Now there are. Maybe there were when I was a kid, but that stuff hooked me so good. It was like something catchy. It fleshed it out.
You had that with like big sprawling franchises, like with Star Wars. One of the novels that Mike Chen wrote, it was the whole novel was based off like one little throwaway phrase. It was like, oh, this, you know, some business on a planet name, and it didn't mean anything at the time. And then it's like, but what was the business? What, you know, what happened? And so actually to spin that out into like a whole story, which kind of retroactively gives this enormous meaning to something that, you know, there's a whole story behind it. And I think that really is how so much works, but even how do inside jokes work? Like there's something where you'll say 3 words and 6 people at a table absolutely crack up because they're filling in something where other people are sitting there like, what just happened? So I think that, you know, anything has the potential to be spun out if you see more.
Yeah.
And there's a good way and a bad way, I'd say. Some films will be like, and you know, you were wondering where Han Solo got that jacket he wears all the time. No. But then some films are like, you remember that line about from that one lady in Star Wars talking about how many people lost their lives trying to get this thing to happen, and then they made Rogue One.
And Andor.
And Andor.
They were compelling though, because it talks about, you know, when we're talking about how Unbreakable World is different from UFS, and like how there's people that do things at the periphery of big historical events, and some of them may not be remembered at all, even though the actions they did had these knock-on effect that this happened, and this big thing never could have happened if it wasn't for that. But you'll never know. And I think that's just fascinating, like the amount of ways that things are connected.
That is a responsibility I feel. So right now I'm writing book 2 of Violence and Vigilance, and it's in there. In book 1 I went kind of buck wild with the amount of POVs. So now I'm finding myself needing to satisfactorily complete a lot of these stories that I have begun. And I've also made for myself a little rule, and that is, if a character doesn't have agency, then they're not necessary to the story. And so even people vaguely mentioned, if they aren't doing something worthwhile that changes the fate of this larger story, then obviously they're not, I'm not going to say it's not worth mentioning. Plenty of books have little asides. I'm thinking about like Brandon Sanderson's books. Some of them have a little like short story in front of an actual chapter just from a place about a thing. But my rule to myself is, even there's got to be some agency. For them to be included, they have to do something. And that's kind of a rule that I'm making for myself as far as every single chapter. The POV character there has to be agency. He's not just along for a ride. And it's tough because I've listed a lot of people. I've listed one of the characters in V&V. I was so fucking flippant about coming up with characters and killing them. This guy's name is Lauren, because he's a low-ranking soldier. Loran, Lauren. Now, luckily, he's dead, so I don't have to follow him. But that's just how flippantly I would introduce folks.
Incredible! I love that. I love that. No, that's amazing.
Have you got a brother, NPC?
Charlie, do you remember Thomas and Teal, the 2 large guys that kind of gave Krause shit about whatever and about the Heathen Tide? they're coming back around. I needed some care. Luckily, I needed some characters to do a thing. I needed some viewpoints from a certain place while this larger battle's had taken place. And I'm like, hey, these guys. So now I gotta figure out who they are, you know.
At least you didn't
The
kill them
thing
off.
that's interesting is when you talk about characters having agency, is it that they know what they're doing?
No, and
Or
hell
is it right?
No.
Because there's also characters
Butterfly
that do
effect.
something that seems completely insignificant, but
Yes.
changes the fate of everything.
Hell yeah.
Like, I don't think that's compelling as
I like a
well.
mountain
Their
of
agency
cards
was like
made of
yeah.
accidents. And then maybe some kind of sovereign character who's like, I saw this happening. I knew this was, or whatever, you know.
Oh, but did you, right? And who knew that was happening? And I think it's just also interesting. So part of it is a character doing something that they intend, and then what actually happens.
What actually
does
happens?
what they intend actually happens, or does something. One of my favorite tropes is like person tries to go back in time to stop something from happening and causes the thing. Like that's I think
have you seen Butterfly? I'm sure you've seen the movie Butterfly Effect.
I have very long ago, probably when it came out.
Essentially, like he's like, I gotta go back and fix it. Whoops, everything's way worse. Let me fix this.
And that one, I think it's changed. Like it just gets worse all the time. And
Always worse, inevitably worse.
It's like more horrible. Yeah.
Till he realizes that he can't fix it, so he uses an umbilical cord in the womb and kills himself before, spoiling a very old movie. It's so fucked up.
You know what? I'll tell you something. I have an incapability of remembering like twist endings of things, even unless I've seen something like so many times or reread something.
Yeah.
If I haven't seen it in like 5 years, chances are I'm not gonna remember until it's like about to happen. And I'm like,
I apologize for spoiling the end of that movie. I
don't think that's a movie that I'm probably not going to watch again, so it's all right.
It's so dark.
There was a vanilla ending as well. It had one where he goes back in time and tells the love interest that he doesn't like her and leave him alone.
Oh yeah, because he wanted like her to get away from him.
Yeah,
save her from getting embroiled with him.
And then they meet years later and they just sort of double take as they walk past, which isn't as.
Oh yeah, I think that's like I love that too. Like the but did they remember?
Yeah. The sort of, traumatic umbilical cord ending was probably the better ending.
As far as the story, as far as the direction shit was going. Yes.
Oh, just like go back in time and like the movie doesn't get made. That right? If you consider the movie to be like a reality within a reality.
Yeah.
It would be like the snow globe ending of like.
What was that the ending for? Or is that?
I think it was multiple things. I think it's
okay.
There was one that was literally it. It was like a long-running TV drama or something in the 80s. Yeah. But I think it's just more the idea that everything was a dream, or like, it was all deleted, or it didn't. Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Believe it or not.
Okay.
Weird
but true.
On the subject of weird mysteries.
Okay.
Have you read where the hell is my fucking note? Where'd it go? The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle.
I have not, but that is another thing that's been recommended to me.
Oh yeah.
I probably have like the games,
things. That one's amazing. You'll love it.
That's older, right? It's like probably at least
Stu Turton is the author. I'd say 6 years.
Okay, so 5 to 10 is correct. Estimating. I feel like I lost track of time somewhere around 5 years ago, and like I don't know how long ago anything was anymore. I feel like I saw that book when I was still in London the last time.
It's cool, and it's very unique.
I will keep it on my list. I feel like I just do not have enough time. The amount of things that I want to read, watch, play, see, like there's never time. I'm like, oh, here's my TBR for the summer, and I'm like 2 books in. One of the things that happens, like when you're an author and like a lot of your friends are also writing things, is I'm reading things that don't come out for like a year or a year and a half. Yeah. And I've read nothing that was published this year. And the stuff that was published this year that I read it 2 years ago. So I feel like I'm kind of constantly existing in this shifting time. Yeah. Like if I didn't read it 2 years ago, now I'm like, oh, there's something that came out that I've never heard of when am I going to read that? Because I'm reading something that's coming out in 2027 right now. Like, what? Wait, this is time. Time is a construct.
It's the same with book reviewing, and like DB, Charlie, you'll back me up on this. You
Yeah.
get to the point where you say yes to everything. It's like, my TBR is crazy. I just want to read books.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But I
It
think
does
there's just so much. Like, I think also I've had, you know, I've got like 2 books coming out close together. Like, there's just so much, you know, preparation, and I was editing them both at the same time. And there was just, this year was a lot. So I had even less time than usual.
And they're both with Solaris.
No, so Solaris has my 2 Union Quadrant books, and the Legend Liminal comes out with Stars and Sabers.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
I actually could have told you that, Tom. That was
Yeah.
The researcher could have told
I
you.
leave the research to you.
sorry.
I can't be expected to remember these things and guest names and things like that. But what was it like shopping around like a few publishers at the same time then?
Sorry?
What was it like when you're shopping like 2 different books of 2 different publishers at the same time? It sounds pretty wild.
It didn't happen at the same time. It was, again,
Okay.
like publishing time. So the first, the book that was like the next book for the Union Quadrant series. So my editor had actually approached me to ask about possibly doing another book for that series. So we'd kind of talked about that a while before. And so, but even though I kind of wrote them simultaneously, but overlapping. So I already wrote, you know, the Flash Fic February version of the Legend Liminal. Before that, I had a very early kind of proto version of the book that would become An Unbreakable World. And then An Unbreakable World ended up being the one that I worked on that was sold first. But then the Legend Liminal, even though it had just been kind of already edited and it was already around, after we had sold An Unbreakable World and that was already all underway, I sent it to Ernie and I said, hey, I have this as well. And he read it pretty quickly. He really loved it. And he just had like a couple of suggestions. I think in that edit, I think I added 1,300 words, like a couple extra scenes. What I was trying to do is actually hit the balance of how sci-fi to make it, you know, because with time stuff, there's always how much did I want to go toward more explanation versus how much of it is vibes and the sort of more spooky, surreal aspect. So we talked a little bit about that, made some very minor changes, sent it out, and so it was out on submission basically for a few months. And then in the meantime, Stars and Sabers became a new imprint. Like I don't think they were even open to submissions at the time when we started out with that. But then I got into their anthology, the first one. So I'd been invited to submit a short story, and then they had opened to subs for novellas. And I said, oh, I have something. We have something that's on submission. So then Ernie sent it over. So yeah, all these things, they were kind of happening in parallel, but they're all from different time periods, right? Different fragments.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So then when we were editing them, because they were coming out the same year, I was doing kind of the, the copy edits and the final checks and everything was really very, very much at the same time. So.
Wow.
Busy.
And now I'll be promoting them and getting readers to know about them and getting them out there. So they're very close siblings. They're launching in the same month.
I would imagine that there's overlap, but not exclusively overlap between the two. There's your own entire campaigns for both, I would imagine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're very different, but they are, well, we've established there are themes that they share, that all of my books share. So I think that there may be different entry points for different readers who have slightly different reading interests, but I hope that readers of one will enjoy other work that I write. and hopefully maybe they'll take a chance on a space opera, or take, they might kind of cross over genres to check it out. That also is amazing. Just a couple of days ago, I had someone tell me that the arc that they read of An Unbreakable World was their first space opera that they'd ever read. And that's something that came up with Under Fortunate Stars as well. Like people saying it was the first time that they had taken a chance on sci-fi, which is incredible. I love to hear that.
You were their gateway.
I was a gateway. And then, especially if people ask for more recommendations, or then they can find, what they also might like. I think there's just definitely a space for people who might have not thought that they'd enjoy a certain kind of story, but then something about a specific book just called to them. They picked it up and took a chance, and they were like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And I had a lot of fun with it.
Amazing. Well, people, we're almost out of time.
Oh my gosh, it's been like, wow, where did the time go?
I know. I feel like we had many more questions we need to ask you, but I think it's the last question before we go is you have your next 2 books coming out with different publishers, Unbreakable World, The Legend Liminal. One of our favorite questions is, you go to the bookstore, you have the blind date with book. So it's harder for you because you have 2 books coming out. Most of our guests have 1. What are your brown paper bag blind date book quotes for An Unbreakable World and The Legend Liminal?
Ooh. Okay. Quotes as in like what the...
So you sell it from the text.
Oh yeah, okay.
Paper bag.
Because usually they have like 3 little, it's a this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say for An Unbreakable World, I would say it has a character focus. So snarky banter characters, something about family ragtag crew kind of vibe, because I'm always doing that in my space operas. I think it has some lore and some intrigue around the politics of an isolated world. So this idea of like a girl growing up not knowing much about the outer galaxy and then finding her way into the wider worlds. And there is a heist. However, people are like, oh, I thought it was going to be, a heist book. Like the heist is going on throughout the whole thing. There is a heist, but it's background. It's mostly like the planning of something that I'd say is probably more like a con with a heist element. So it's not a heist book, but probably someone that wrote The Blind Date with the book, they would probably put that on there because it is on all of the
heist elements.
Heist energy, light
heist energy,
like a sprinkling of heist. The Legend Liminal, I would definitely put Donnie Darko vibes, because I feel like that's the easiest shortcut to just the feeling of the book. The characters are young, like they're a young protagonist. There's like weirdness. There's that kind of very specific vibe, and it has that sense of being contained. So I think I would also say it's about complicated and messy family relationships. It's a lot about and something about road trips. Definitely weird road trips. Things that happen on road. Like you just say road trip story. I think there's elements that you can expect right away. But definitely it's about sibling relationships, friendship, family relationships, and complicated relationships, people that you've known a long, long time, but you have a lot to work out with that you've not necessarily confronted. And that's what happens in the course of the story. And maybe it takes falling out of reality for them to actually talk to each other about some things. So yeah.
Fantastic.
I think I write good pitches, but I take a long time to do them. If you came back and asked me for this after I workshop, I would have.
I was going to say, Tom, if you ever ask me that, I'm not going to like it.
More authentic, where we just ask people on the spot, though. If you come up with a canned, rehearsed answer, it won't be as good.
I mean, that's true. That is true.
It's also only the first time I've talked about these books.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us to talk about all three
For
of your
sure.
books.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
Everyone, please check out Ren's books. When are the two
Release
new ones
dates.
out?
Yeah.
9th
Okay,
of September?
so the Unbreakable World is out on September 9th, which is just like 2 weeks from now. I think in the UK it's on the 11th, so basically the week of the 9th, you should have it. It's out in ebook and audio as well. And The Legend Liminal comes out on the 30th of September.
That's
And
a
you can
nice
get-
spread, though. That gives you a little time
Yeah,
to
it's
focus
3
on one
weeks.
and then the other.
Like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And both of the anthologies are out now. Under Fortunate Stars is obviously out now, and they are the Union Quadrant books. They're both standalone, so jump in with whichever one grabs you. If you want like time travel and a little bit more like space setting and more about like a closed room mystery type of thing, that will be Under Fortunate Stars. And if you're looking more the wider world, a little bit more lore, intrigue, and more planet-based setting, that's going to be An Unbreakable World. And both of them share themes about history and identity and memory, and they are they're both set in the same universe. They have some connections, and they both have found family and character-driven stories. So
Cool.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Nice.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Ren, for joining us.
thank
Thanks
you
as
so
always.
much. And you will choose the comments, right, for the
Yeah.
pick some
Yeah,
there. Let me know.
On those, definitely. Yeah.
Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank you,
Good night,
folks.
good morning, whatever time it is for you.
You've been listening to the Four Beardsmen of the Bookpocalypse. Like, share, and subscribe for more.